It's all right, and we're coming on. We're going to get right back to where we started from. So I've got here a friend of mine who I've known for a long time, just an acquaintance. And the last time I saw her, I think, was in America when I was over there in 2018 for the Channel 9 sent me over. I went over and watched the Masters in 2018 when Patrick Reed won it, and I ran into this person over there. And this person has been brought in to the studio by an old, the warehouse here where we're doing this, by an old friend of ours, Kate Save from Be Fit Food. And Rosie here, who's taken some photographs of it, and Kate's got her kids in here, so it's a jamboree. It's an Estetford in here at the minute. But the person I speak of is the great Nicky Whelan, who is not an expatriate Australian. She's an Australian. She went over to America, and I'm going to ask her if she's back here temporarily or for good. So welcome to You Cannot Be Serious, Nikki.
Sam, I'm finally here. I've seen you promote this show all the time. I'm like, I'm going to get on there somehow.
Well, we're
it's like Kate got me in. Thanks for having me.
We're very glad that you're in now. So there is a whole raft of work that you've done.
Have you been digging and sniffing through things?
Absolutely. When I know I'm going to speak to people, I look them up to see what just on the Wikipedia, and there's far too many things to write down. But you left Australia when, after your career on Neighbours,
Yeah.
You ended, and when was that?
I think it was like 18 years ago. All I know is I've been in the States for 18 years. So I did a year on Neighbours. And before that in Australia, I was doing TV hosting. So Beyond the Boundary, Coxy's Big Break.
I got all that written down here, yeah.
Do you remember that's when we used to hang out. We used to all know the crew. And then I got a really great opportunity in the States. I think I was around 25. Well, I'm 43 now, so I was 25 around then. And took off, pretty bold. It was good that I did it when I was young because it was a lot more fierce. And cut to 18 years later.
So you were on Neighbours for a year.
Yeah.
With whom?
Who was on at the time? Some of the old school crew was on it. Steph Mack, who's still a really good friend of mine, Stephanie McIntosh. I stay in contact with her. I haven't seen a lot of them. Natalie, a lot of them sprouted out and didn't continue acting and do their own thing around the world now. I miss some of them.
And you'll have to pardon me for asking this. Neighbours are still going? Overseas?
I heard that it stopped and then it's relaunched again.
I should know that.
Yeah, I should know that too. But so they've relaunched again. So grateful for that platform though, because that was the first acting gig I ever did, and they took me on with no training, nothing, and just...
And what were you on it? Who were you?
My character was Pepper. She was a little troublemaking school teacher.
And Neighbours was syndicated over in overseas? In Britain mainly?
52 countries around the world. And so the big audience was always Australia and UK. So when I finished, I did go to the UK for 6 months. And it was like, on the streets there, it was like being Madonna.
Just going to say, your reputation preceded you and people knew who you were.
Only for 5 minutes though. Just for 5 minutes. And then it sort of fizzled out. I didn't spend a lot of time on Neighbours. I think if I'd spent the 3 years there, it probably would have been a little bit bigger, but I only did the 12 months.
And so why did you leave Australia? You had an offer from... What did you go over for? How did you come to go over?
So I had some crew over there that I knew because I'd been travelling back and forth. And some friends of mine, Chris Fairley, who's a very old, famous comedian, he passed away, but his brother Kevin Fairley, these are all the SNL crew.
Saturday Night Live?
Those guys, Chris Kattan, that they were doing this sort of low-budget movie, but it was filled with a bunch of really good SNL actors, and they're like, come over, be the lead in this movie. So it was just, when you get an opportunity there, you've kind of got to take it. Because it's few and far between. So I ran with that. I was with IMG here at the time, and they sort of supported my visa going over there. And that was sort of my intro to LA, and I kind of hit the ground running. I actually had a really good start. First 6-7 years in LA was good.
What was the IMG man's name?
Chris Giannopoulos.
Yeah,
remember Chris?
That's right.
Yeah.
And we spoke about him the other day because I think he managed Marcus Ambrose.
Oh, okay.
The NASCAR driver.
Yeah.
Tasmanian.
Okay.
Because I
love
used to
Chris.
speak to Chris about Marcus because I followed him. Anyhow, so SNL, Saturday Night Live, they used to give the Republicans buggery, didn't they?
They did.
They're a left-wing organisation that
Yes, they are.
and they took the piss out of. Mind you, the man they took the piss out of most, Donald Trump. He's probably had the last laugh.
He's now going to be running the country for the next 4 years.
So, how long have you been back here?
I got back about 2 weeks ago.
Right. I'm very glad you said that because what was the heading up to the election? I wanted to just heading up to
the vibe.
Yeah, the vibe. They were all against him, but now that he's in, people can't help but say, "Oh, I'm a great Trump fan." But if you said that in the past, you'd be frowned on,
You'd be annihilated.
shouted at.
You know, it's the proof was in the pudding, wasn't it? When you saw when he was so leading pretty much really strongly the whole way. The energy in LA when I was there when it was all taking place was intense. People were panicking. I've never been huge and massively into politics, but you can't help but not at this stage over there. And people were really panicking. But when the news came and he won, I think I was awake. It's like 2 a.m. He did that, like his live speech. I was sitting in bed by myself, and the panic of everybody. And then it kind of the next morning I woke up. There wasn't these crazy things that people say. Everyone gets so hyped up over there.
Because they're corrupt and dishonest. The mainstream media is a disgrace. They are the most. They're the most false, and the Hollywood celebrities that came out and spoke absolute crap. How they think that that heightens their career. People just look at them as though they're absolute wankers.
It's funny, Bethany Frankel, who I'm a huge fan of, she was, and I think it was an old housewife. She's a really big name in the States now. She made a really good point of saying, with the amount of people that were paid to, out there, all these celebrities, and it's still, when you've got Taylor Swift and these people still getting millions and millions of dollars and trying to promote, it didn't hold any power. The proof was in the pudding. And so it really sort of, I think it's created a different frequency over there because it's really put everybody in a different position now, and it's sort of taken everyone back a notch. You saw it. I mean, it didn't work.
It didn't work, and the ridiculous point about the celebrities backing people, backing Kamala Harris and Joe Biden is the fact that half their audience, Republicans that go to their films and go to their concerts, why would you disenfranchise half your audience just by having a personal opinion about who you think should be the President of the United States? Why don't you just shut up?
And enjoy the show. I'm telling you, why I never talk about politics is because I'm an actress. I talk about acting, and I love it when everyone gets on their soapbox and gives it a crack, and it's only been proven to not have held up so well, as we've all been able to see. But I must say, the news here, it's so interesting when I travel the world. Everyone's news is portrayed very, very differently.
It is indeed.
It's quite manipulative and a little bit scary because the belief system I've been on the ground over there for 18 years, living there. So I deal with the day-to-day and see what's happening. And I do believe that America still have the power to have a huge effect on the entire world. So the world does want to get involved in their politics. However, you don't get the truth. The stories, it's amazing what people get fed through different news outlets. That's right,
because the biases of their particular network the stories are always slanted one way. You get very, very rarely do you get someone who is completely unbiased and has an opinion but is happy to listen to someone else's rather than slanting it in the direction they want. And MSNBC and CNN, and as opposed to Fox News, the difference in how they report stories is. But I think the public finally worked all that out after a while, and Donald Trump has been, I reckon he's fantastic, Donald Trump, but I've been saying that here and people...
You've been saying this for a long time.
Long time, but no one's going to say it here. No one's going to say it anywhere. They will now
authenticity seems to be a very strong trait and a frequency that's really showing up now. I feel like that people are seeing through stuff. I really do. That authenticity is a really big vibration that's important, and I think it's just showing itself now, and you can see it.
I know you've mentioned this, but you did Coxy's big break with Jeff Cox.
Yeah.
What was that about? Was that going about?
It was like a travel show.
Yes, like postcards that Nine took up after that, did they?
Yeah, so it was the guys over at Double TFM, Daryl Talbot and those guys, and Steve O'Emke. They found me cheerleading for Melbourne Storm, and they were like, do you want to, Chris Giannopoulos is like, do you want me to manage you? And I'm like, I'm just a cheerleader, but sure, let's give it a crack. And before I know it, I'm auditioning for all these shows, and then I land on Coxy's Big Break again with no real skills, but just threw myself into it, which seems to be what I do. And it ended up being 3 years of a really great time on the road.
So did you get on board the Melbourne Storm how long have they been going?
Listen, I'm 43. It was when I was 18, so...
Melbourne Storm.
Melbourne Storm.
So you're 18, you're 43, so 20, that's 38, 20 years. They must have just started.
Yeah,
Melbourne
it's really
Storm.
new. And I was cheerleading for them and the basketball.
Were you?
Yeah, Melbourne Tigers. I love it. And do you know what? I come home and it's just still the same.
You went over to America, and what is the first thing you did over there? I know you've appeared in magazines on FHM.
Oh my goodness, you know more than me. You've read more stuff.
No, FHM and Ralph.
Oh boy, yeah. Mm-hmm.
And Inside Sport.
Oh wow.
So Nikki, what did you do for what's FHM mean? For FHM.
What is FHM
for himself. What's FHM mean?
No idea. Everyone
I think it's
at
a
all
men's.
the girls in here.
It's a men's magazine.
I did all the men's magazines.
Yeah.
I did the Pumped Up Down Under calendars. I was in the mix.
Did they ask you to take your clothes off?
I was always dressed in very little.
This is Ralph.
Yeah.
But you didn't ask you to take all your clothes off, or did you?
Never took all my clothes off for them. No, but I did. I was always in bikinis. God bless. I was
that's
confident
all right.
back then. God help doing that now. But back, I don't know, just that fearlessness in your 20s, and I was lucky enough to do a little bit of modelling, and I sort of look back at those magazines, and that was when they were in. That's when guys would go and buy Maximum Mag, and you didn't have Instagram, right? So
Hef and Playboy. Hef didn't get onto you, did he?
No, but I did go to his party a couple of times.
Did you?
Of course. You've been, haven't you? Been?
No, of course. What? Been to Hef's party at the Hef machine? What's it called?
The Playboy Mansion.
Playboy Mansion. You would have seen Bill Cosby drugging people in the corner and taking them upstairs and giving them a sing to. Lucky you're not over there with P. Diddy and Jay-Z at the minute, because they've been accused of doing some horrendous things, whether there's any truth in that. But I think they're all fearing that Trump is going to release all the secret files about them all. I think they're all absolutely wetting themselves.
It's getting uplifted over there. Everything, even the energy feels pretty dark there right now. It's like everything is just coming undone, and we need a little chaos to reset what's coming next.
So you came back. So when you came back, you were the face of betting. What was that?
For Crown Bet. And
Crown Bet.
Easy. Yeah, for the guys. That was about 8 years ago.
Bet Easy.
Yeah.
Yep.
And Crown Bet. Before that, it was Crown Bet. That was the initial big campaign I did with them, and they changed to Bet Easy. That was That was one of the first times I came back to work in Australia. It was a fantastically fun gig.
So Bet Easy, was that Matthew Tripp, or was that?
Yep.
Yeah. So Matthew Tripp owns the Storm.
Yeah. Yep.
And is a marvellous man. Very successful man.
Wonderful human
being. He is. He's
lovely
a fantastic.
To work for. I got to tell you, when those guys got me back here to do that campaign, absolute world class. The people that had done the wardrobe people that had done the movies for Mad Max. My makeup artist was Kate Blanchett's makeup artist. They got me a world class team, and we made those commercials, and we had a blast. It was so much fun coming back to do, and then they just kept bringing me back, and I got to come back to be in the races because I was the face of night racing for 8 years before I went over for Moonee Valley.
Yep.
So I was coming back to the racing world and all that crew, and
So, Nikki, this is Nicky Whelan. Incidentally, Nicky Whelan is the granddaughter of, to make this reasonably relevant for people who are listening to this, the granddaughter of Marcus Whelan,
yeah,
who played VFL football in the 30s and 40s for Collingwood. Yep. Not part of the Whelan the Wrecker family, are
I
you?
wish we would have a little bit more money.
Yeah,
but
no, they're Whelan. I wasn't sure if you're part of the Whelan the Wrecker family. You then are you into causes? Are you in? The reason I ask you this is you were in was it a series or a film or a promotion called Harrow of London?
Oh my goodness, you've dug into some randoms.
Well, because that was about the environment, and you were. I don't know if you were paid to do that or you were emotionally involved in the environment. Is that one of your things that you're interested in, the environment? We're all interested in the environment, but there's a lot of nonsense spoken about the environment.
This was a gig that I don't even remember. I remember the photo shoot in the UK. They asked
What
me
did you have to do?
I think we were promoting walk, take the train instead of drive.
Yes, that's
stuff
right.
like
that's
this.
right. Yep.
I was merely
Public
a child
transport.
when I did that campaign. I got to be honest with you, majority of my energy, if it comes to services, I work with animals all the time now in LA. I have a tiny house on a rescue property in LA, and I've got involved with animals. I didn't have kids, so my duty is to be with animals. I'm rescuing animals, pulling animals, supporting all those events. That's where the energy is now.
Harrow is about sustainable transport.
I love that you're going back to that, even though I can't even, you know more about it than me because I don't even remember. I just remember the photos. That's so weird.
So that was the point. Did they push you into being the face of that cause, or did you have a genuine interest in it? Doesn't matter really, does it?
I don't even remember.
It's a paid gig and I'll do it.
Yeah, and it was something that came
it's
out
not
of
immoral.
Neighbours. Yeah, and they were like, do you want to come do it? And I was like, sure. But I'd have to go back and think.
And what about Melrose Place?
Ooh.
Yes.
They did a second, like a whole new redo of Melrose Place. I grew up watching that.
Yeah.
And I auditioned for a couple episodes, and I got in the mix. And unfortunately, didn't get to work with any of the original actors, but I got to sit on the back of a golf cart at the time with Heather Locklear, who was a stud. She's so beautiful. And even though we didn't have any scenes together, I sat in a little golf buggy. I think I was 26 or 27 years old, and it was one of my first jobs in America, and it was cool. I was in the mix, like.
And in the mix of being in Los Angeles and California, and is that where you're not in New York? You're on the West Coast.
Live in LA.
Yes, that's where we were when I saw you the last time in 2018. I think Augusta is over that side, isn't it?
Yeah. Did we drive? Did you drive or did I drive that car downtown? Remember we had to do a segment in the car?
Yep.
Was it me driving or you?
No, I don't think I was driving.
Why'd they make me drive?
I don't know. I don't know.
And I made you do a dancing video with me, and you were mortified.
That's correct. You could change the style on the phone that all I can do is ring on the phone. I don't know how anything else works, but you had me doing something, then you had it morphed into me with something on my head and something. What is that called?
There was some at the time.
Was that in Rodeo Drive?
No, we were downtown. Remember we went to a pie shop down there or something?
Yeah,
we were doing
we
a bunch
did
of
too.
Aussie stuff.
Yeah, that's right.
And I'm bouncing around in red heels, dancing, and you're standing there like, Jesus, what's she making me do?
No, that's right. That was with the bloke who advertises for Coles, who has the bloke over the chap who has the restaurant, the beef restaurants over there.
Oh, really?
He does the Coles ads. What's his name? Yeah, well
oh,
done,
Curtis, that's
Sue.
Rice.
Thank you,
Yes, we went and ate there.
Curtis Stone, that's right. We did a segment with him about how people are picketing his steak restaurant because, you know, they're vegans, and he was having to put up with people throwing things at his store, and I thought, shit,
I remember that. But it was a beautiful restaurant. It's still there. He's kicking goals. He kicks ass over there. By the way, so many Aussies are showing up in LA doing huge gigs, and then I'll find out later on that they're Australian. I had no idea that they're Australian. We take over when we go to LA.
So who was Chris Giannopoulos? Was he your agent over there?
He got the intro for me to IMG, but then after, because IMG were more TV hosting and I wanted to get into acting, so I was lucky enough to sign with, I think I was with Endeavour. I went over to CAA for a while. I was at UTA for a long time. So I've been with all the major agencies. I've had great stints with all of them over the years.
So, Nikki, so you then got married.
I did.
You got married to a NFL player?
I did. You should have been at the wedding. Chris came out for the wedding.
It was
the most beautiful wedding I've ever been to.
Kerry Rhodes?
Yep. Did you meet him out
here?
No,
I didn't meet him. No, I'm just.
He came out here a couple of times.
Did he?
Yeah, I thought you might
with
have met
you?
him out and about. Yeah.
So how did Mr. Rhodes get onto the great Nicky Whelan? How did you meet Kerry Rhodes?
Just through mutual friends. And
so where were you? You weren't at an NFL game. You were out at a function,
retired.
And he came up to you and he said, "My word, look at you! Aren't you just one of the greatest looking people I've seen?" And you said, "Thank you so much." And he said, "Would you like to come out to dinner?" And you said, "Why not?" And is that how it happened? How did it happen?
If we're making a movie about my life, that's how we'll write it. But it was unfortunately at his apartment. He was making these comical Instagram things. And some friend of mine, I was doing a TV show at the time called Matador for Robert Rodriguez, cool series. And
Matador.
It was rad. It was a soccer series. And one of the soccer players in the TV show said, "My mate, Kerry Rhodes, football player, is doing these Instagram videos. Come meet him. He wants you in them." So I go to his house and he was sitting there. He's a big stud, 6'4", like you, nice and tall, the whole deal. And I just, I had a big crush on him. But he kind of played it really cool with me. And then he asked me out for dinner, and 2 years later we were married.
The rest is history. And he might have looked like me, but he wasn't the same colour.
Nope.
He was a big African-American man.
Yeah.
And you would have looked good getting married. You would have got in black and white. You would have looked like the driven snow, and he would have looked like,
It was my heels that I bought.
Yeah.
I went down, remember, Mum took me down Rodeo Drive and I got myself a nice big pair of YSLs about 10 inches just so that I could look in proportion next to him in the in the wedding photos. Yeah, so not a long marriage.
No,
But
so I was just going to say, I've had 2 or 3 or 4 or 5 or 6 goes at being married.
How many times have you been married?
Well, I've been married 4 times, but the 3 times sort of really, and the last person I was married to, she died. So I'm just saying I've been married sort of 3 times, but no, 4 times I've been married. So
did I beat you when it comes to the length of being married?
No, I think mine have lasted 6 months.
Oh, we were close.
Who? Oh, Amanda. Yeah, no, Amanda died though. I came home one day and she was lying on the floor of the place. She had an aneurysm. Yep. And so I count that as a marriage, of course. But I've been married 3 times and divorced 3 times is what I was getting around to saying. What was the reason we didn't last with Mr. Rhodes?
I gotta tell you, it lasted.
If I could ask you a personal question about Mr. Rhodes.
You can. It's hilarious. We laugh about it now. We were married for 5 months. It's so funny. It's not even funny because we were just completely 2 people that had a vision but had done no work on ourselves. And he had just retired and my career was kind of moving. It just didn't work. And
So did he take you out to all the great A-listed parties and
I
everything?
took him to the A-list
You took him, that's right, he would have, I was going to say. And
I took him. I actually ran into him for the first time in 8 years in a juice bar the other day, and we stood there for an hour and had a really good laugh, and it was very healing. We were just way too wild and way too crazy, and it's funny, when we was getting divorced, you'll know this, Sam, I literally went on Google and went, how do I get divorced? All my friends were like, get a lawyer, get this. I'm like, this is ridiculous. Can I get it annulled? It's been 5 months. But we had made it such a production. You'd think, I mean, everyone came. 250 people came to the Beverly Hills Hotel. You'd never seen anything like it. I was like, oh, here we go. So I had to really tap in, and we both knew it, and he was panicked that we were going to end up in a court in the courts. So I went and spoke to a lawyer, and I was like, I don't really want anything. I don't think he wants anything. What's he going to take from me, my dog? And so I found this place, I think it was called We Are the People. And you walk in, and for $900, you both sit down, you sign about 50 pieces of paper, and then they
Is this to get married or divorced?
Divorced.
Oh, yeah.
And then they go, do you want anything? Do you want anything? I was like, no, the only thing I want is my name to be back to Nicole Whelan.
Yeah.
So we did the paperwork, and he looked at me, and he was sure that something else was going to pop up. But the woman said, $900, please. He paid $900. We both stood up, and we walked out of this tiny little office. He got in the Aston Martin.
Yes.
I got in the Nissan.
Yes.
And I never saw him for 8 years.
He would have been extremely, I don't know if you just saw him recently, he would have been extremely grateful that you weren't a gold digger or into him for the wrong reason.
His mother had said to him, he had said to his mother, I think, should I get a prenup?
Yep.
And his mum had said, nah, she would never do that. I wouldn't. Listen, I had a career. I was okay. You know, when you're done with someone, you'll know this. I can put this question back on you. You don't want anything to do with them. You're done. I'm not going to sit in court for 2 years to get a couple $100,000, please. And I didn't even, we were together 2.5 years. I couldn't get out of there quick enough at the time. And I went.
So it was acrimonious, was it, in the end? Like there was friction?
Yes, too much.
Well, it would be friction or you wouldn't be getting a divorce, would you?
I left our big home, our big 11,000 square foot home, and I moved back into a very tiny little apartment with my dog. And I remember I shut the door and I was like, here we go again, starting again, 36.
Did it take you a while to get out amongst it again, or did you take a healing process, or did you have to get a bit of self-belief to get out in the society again, or...?
It's just another chapter of my life. It was starting again because I went back. At the time, I didn't have any work, but it was funny. I was smoking at the time, and I was standing at the door of our big house, and I was crying, and I was smoking a cigarette, and I was like, just chaining smoking, bawling my eyes out, thinking, where is my next paycheck coming from? I'm getting divorced. I'm 36. What am I doing? And I'm not kidding you. I looked up at the sky, and my phone rings. And it was my agent. And he goes, so, good day for you, Nick. We got 2 movie offers and a TV show. What do you want to do?
Fantastic.
And I just thought, it gave me a lot of hope,
karma.
A lot of stability, karma, whatever you want to call it. So
divine intervention.
Divine intervention, all those things. So it was a lot of pain, but also big blessings come when you just leave it alone. Because how hell is divorce?
Yep, it's no.
It's awful. I mean, you did it 3 times.
No, it is. No matter how sensible and mature you want to be about it, there's always a bit of acrimony in it, or you wouldn't have got there in the first place, I don't suppose.
Because heartbreak, but your heart's breaking too. I don't know if you were at that point when you left but your heart breaks. And the behaviour is so outrageous. You just don't, you lose sense of who you are. And then you're asked to make very sensible decisions with a court. Fuck no, I'm not doing that. I just need to have a broken heart and heal. So I opted out for the courts, but I don't know how yours went.
So now you've come back here, and what's in store for you here? Do you have any opportunity to do something, or is the people looking around for you, or you're just back here relaxing? And I see you've brought your, I didn't know you're a friend of Kate Saves.
So Kate
or Rose,
and Rosie and I,
but,
we've all been friends for over 20 years.
Good,
and
well, Kate's a good friend of ours here.
I love Be Fit Food has been, I actually had some not scary, but a couple blood work done where my sugars were a little high. So having a diabetic specialist in my friendship group prompted me to come home a couple months ago and do her diet, the Be Fit Food diet.
Are you
for
a
7
diabetic?
days. No, but I was in that ballpark.
Yep.
So I reset the gut, did the Be Fit Food, had the best results, bloody amazing results. I'm actually started it again this week. But the trip back then was to work with Skater. I call her Skater because I've grown up with her forever, Kate, because she was a little skater when she was younger. Sorry, Kate. And so I've come back this time to be honest with you, I just wrapped a TV show. I was absolutely knackered. I'm tired. I've been on the road. I've been busy. I just wanted to tap out, come home, do this diet again, look after my health, sleep, spend some time with my mum and my family down on the peninsula. But on top of that, ended up signing with a couple teams down here with the possibility of getting work. There's so many American productions on the Gold Coast now.
Yeah.
I'm open. I've always said America have been so good to me. They pay me well. I've always worked consistently. But if Australia was to offer the same, or if there was something for me to be here, send me home. I'd rather be with my mates here, you know.
I don't think people realise how many different productions and films. Netflix, if you've got Netflix and you trawl through all the films and things that are made and on a weekly, monthly basis, there is hundreds of films being made. Most of them are shit house. But you've occasionally you strike. Well, in the eye of the beholder they are, but obviously other people love them. It's extraordinary. So there is plenty happening up in the north. So Sue and I, we spent 6 months up on a boat up in the Whitsundays. We took a boat up there and lived up there in a surreal world. It was fantastic, and ate Kate's food up there for on periodical occasions until it ran out, and so
I know I don't like when it runs out. No, she's got you a new box over here.
Yeah, no, that's good. So it's just in time. We've been back 2 weeks. We left in May and got back about 3 weeks ago and lived on a boat. We took my boat. Sue and I took it up on our own and brought it back on our own, which is some sort of feat.
How'd you feel on a boat that long?
How did we feel? No, we get on very well indeed.
Was it relaxing? Like, because you're in a whole different environment. I mean, you've gone
relaxing.
from land to, you know.
It was fantastic, and we never had an argument, and never have, and probably never will. No, we won't. No, it was great. So why did I say that? Because I ate Kate Saves Food, Be Fit Food, and now relationships.
Single.
Yes.
Single at 43.
Yes, I would say you wouldn't be single for long, Nikki.
Thank you, Sam. I'm glad you say that. But the truth is, there's something, you go through a lot. We know this, right? So, and I opted out at some point that children wasn't overly my strongest direction. And I'm really glad with the decision I've made with that. I chose a very particular lifestyle. It's ultimately like being in a big circus. And I kind of have really leaned into that over the years, and it would be lovely to the idea of settling down with someone or meeting someone. And I've been on some fabulous dates. I've had some wild relationships, but when you don't have children and you're not looking to get married again, there's a really nice freedom that I have. There's no rush. I'm not trying to rush into anything. I love my career. So I feel like I'm in some ways in a really lucky position being single at the moment.
So one of the great things that would be temptation would be the great drug scene over there. Did you get caught up in the drug scene yourself, or with plenty of people that live in those that work in those circles?
Do you know what? Truth? It is.
I don't know the truth.
I'm about to tell
Nikki.
you. I come home to Australia and I have never, and everyone that knows me, never done a drug in my life.
Mm-hmm.
Tried marijuana when I was a kid. I've never touched a drug since. I was barely a drinker because I don't like it. The only thing I did poorly to myself was I smoked heavily for 20 years.
Yep.
I've done now. I haven't had touched alcohol or cigarettes for 3 years. Every now and then my characters in the movies will have a cigarette and I'll enjoy it for the scene. That's it. I've never, ever, ever done a drug. I don't like it. It's nasty. And whether I'm there in LA, particular scenes do different kinds of drugs. There's a lot of mushrooms, which are actually probably the best out of them all because people are more chill on them. You know, I don't mind people having a drink around me. I grew up in a drinking environment. I come back to Australia. Whew,
Drugs.
it is nasty. I tap out. I'm at parties. I'm tapping out at 8:30. Never liked it. You see people flooding in and out of the toilets. It is a disgrace. Sorry, I don't like to be a judgy person, but it's worse than ever, and I don't like it. It's not for me.
I reckon we're the only people in this room that are not on drugs. Every single person's on drugs of some sort. For
bathrooms, you can't even go to the toilet.
Yep.
You watch women pile out of the toilet cubicle, and I've been waiting there for 20 minutes just to use the bathroom. And it's worse than ever. And I ain't no saint, but I don't touch any of that shit. And I love to promote health and a healthier lifestyle because I live it. And it's a much nicer way to live without it.
Well, it's fantastic. I was hoping you'd say that. I'm in the circles that you would move in, and
I know everyone thinks I'm a party animal.
But in the circles you move in, and the athletes and the footballers and everyone's they're all on it here. Doesn't matter what they say. Most of them are on it. So it's refreshing. I'm glad you said that. It wouldn't have mattered if you hadn't said that, but I was just interested to know, did you get caught up in that world? Because it's be a hell of a temptation, I'd say. If everyone else is doing it, your peers are doing it, you think, oh, what the hell?
Do you know what? I think I've always been too scared to touch it. The idea of losing control and just putting some foreign thing and hoping for some outcome. I've realised I understand addiction very well, though. I've had a lot of friends with severe addictions over there. When you're in a very unstable environment, there's all sorts of reasons why people, and we're all addicts to some degree of some kind of behaviour, food, whatever, but they're escaping pain. Ultimately, we're all just wanting to find ways to feel good. And in LA specifically, you either get absolutely annihilated on drugs and run down that path, or you really turn to spirituality, which people laugh at, but it keeps you alive. And I really took a very spiritual path in LA. I've dated some crazy people and I've been on some wild rides, but whenever I got really bad in my life, like really depressed, really wanting to tap out, really dark places in my life, I never chose it. I always just found like a great person to work with, a spiritual coach. I always went that route. And I've been in some really dark places in my time, but I can see you have this choice. Do I annihilate myself so I don't feel anything, or do I take the spiritual path? Both are tough paths.
Well, you seem to be able to handle anything that comes your way, Nicky Whelan. And you do. You're disciplined enough to know what to do and what not to do. And as I say, I don't know you very well, but it's been fantastic to talk to you. I hope you find what you want back here in Australia, because it's a great place. Although if you're living in Victoria at the minute, it's been a rough ride in here for the last 5 years, but that's politically speaking, which we won't do that anymore.
Sam, once that pendulum hits the thing, you know what's going to happen, don't you? It's going to come all the way
I
back
do.
again.
It's all, as they say, cyclical. It all goes round in cycles. So, Nicky Whelan, thank you so much for coming into You Cannot Be Serious, and we do wish you well, because you're a star. Thank you so much.